In this video, I'm going to summarize my current understanding of theories of multiliteracies. I'm going to state what it means to be multiliterate. I'm also going to explain why a pedagogy of multiliteracies is valuable in ELA teaching and learning. And at the end, I'm going to talk about problems that I've encountered while reading these texts. So, let's go over the basics. In 1996, a group of people called the New London Group came together and came up with this radical new thing called pedagogy of multiliteracies, which was based upon analyzing the why, what, and how of literacy pedagogy. Now, these two people called Cope and Calantis detail these three questions in their paper, Multiliteracies, New Literacies, and Learning. The who being students who are going off to work and contribute to the economy. The why being their interpretation of, and I quote, what was happening to meaning making and representation in the world of work, citizenship, and personal life that might prompt a reconsideration of our approaches to literacy teaching and learning. That's a lot, right? Basically, we're doing this because the world is changing and learning should too. The what being what these students have to work with, available designs, patterns and concepts already in place, designing, using available designs to create something, and the redesigned. In their terms, the world transformed, how through the act of designing has transformed themselves and their learning. And the how being the, and I quote, limitations of both traditional literacy teaching, situated practice, overt instruction, critical framing, and transformed practice. Now, this original outline of the pedagogy of multiliteracies has evolved. Cope and Calantis outlined this as well. Situated practice has moved to experiencing the known and the new. Overt instruction can be considered conceptualizing through naming and theory. Critical framing can be seen as analyzing functionally and critically, and transformed practice is applying appropriately and creatively. My current understanding of multiliteracies is that it is based upon modality and the belief that students should be the primary agents of their own learning, using their knowledge to contribute to their own communities while also being able to be active participants in meaning making. I drew these thoughts from Cope and Calantis. And even this idea has adapted. Mira, Morel, and Filipiak in their From Digital Consumption and Digital Invention Toward a New Critical Theory and Practice of Multiliteracies, wow, that's a mouthful, use the New London's theories of multiliteracies to create a critical theory of multiliteracies which involves 4 types of digital engagement. Critical digital consumption, helping students determine reliable sources. Digital production, consumption and production as symbiotic. Digital distribution, prospect of authentic engagement with individuals outside of the traditional classroom space. And pedagogy of digital invention, which should entail providing young people with the skills needed to think and create beyond the circumscribed boundaries of mass media producers. Wow, what a tongue twister. And then, in Seglem and Garcia's Changing Literacies and Civic Pathways, they focus on the way, and I quote, inquiry-driven teaching approaches to middle school English using the answer to the New London's question of how. They found through their research that, and I quote, the pedagogical foundations of multiliteracies, teachers sustain authentic literacies, student agency, and positive distributions of power. But what does this mean? To me, in order to be multiliterate, one must consider the modality of meaning. Since traditional literacy does not recognize the use of meaning in learning, it tries to confine itself to the monomodal formalities of written language. However, most of our daily life is lived multimodally. Everything is a text, from video, movies, and gestural representations. In the context of secondary ELA teaching and learning, multiliteracies have changed the way students approach their education and have applied their knowledge to make real change. With the pedagogy of multiliteracies, all forms of representation should be thought of as a dynamic process to help students transform information instead of simply processing and reproducing it. This reminds me of a project I did in one of my education courses, LAE 4342. We read The Hate You Give, and we were able to read the book, use different media that we brought to connect with the text, share our ideas we brought to make meaning, with the end result being an awesome redesign. So, with all that information, I've been considering how I am going to implement the pedagogy of multiliteracies into my own class. So get this, Shakespeare Twitter. While we read Shakespeare, I'll set up a class Twitter that follows Shakespeare and his daily thoughts on current events. Each student will have access to the Twitter, and for assignments, they'll connect the day's reading with a theme or scene from Shakespeare to their everyday life. This involves digital production and digital distribution to people outside of the classroom. There is multimodality to this lesson, and hopefully, in the end, we can have an incredible redesign that acts as a transformation of information. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does this in any way represent the pedagogy of multiliteracies, the very thing that I have laid out through this entire video? The answer is, scary enough, is that I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this has the fundamentals involved with the pedagogy of multiliteracies, and with some tinkering, can be a transformative assignment in which my students are active makers in meaning. After reading the original pedagogy of multiliteracies and seeing the work that has spawned from its predecessor, I still have questions regarding how to apply them in my own class. I can't just give them a video and ask them to respond using their own cultural capital. I need to be able to transfer the principle beyond this theory, encourage students to be active makers of meaning, and consider themselves constant detectives when it comes to the information they receive. We can't help the way our capitalist and productive society works. However, we can give students the tools to work inside the system, to not believe everything at face value, to consider the text they are encountering and question why, what, and how, to give them a fighting chance at making real and lasting change through their education and learning. This is to me the most important tenet of the pedagogy of multiliteracies. It is your life. Here are the tools you need to be active, not passive, to question and create. Now, go and use them. Whew, I can finally breathe now.